With a recent killing spree in Colorado, all too often tragedy is front and center in our world, and it's hard to make sense of it as an adult, never mind as a child. So how can we help kids cope with this type of news? Well, Bill Corbett is a speaker and educator and the author of the book series Love, Limits, and Lessons, A Parent's Guide to Raising Cooperative Kids. Bill, welcome back. It's nice to have you here.
Great to be here.
Let's just talk about right off the bat how kids interpret violent news stories, probably all different ways, especially from each other.
Yeah, well, first, they don't have the foundation that we do as adults. So one of the things that happens is when they're exposed to something, they worry about two things go on in their head. One is it going to happen to me? They automatically worry that, is it going to come to our home? Is it going to affect us, whether it's weather or shooting? And the other thing is they feed off of the adults around them. Oh. So if the parents...
Reactions?
Right. If the parents are crying or angry, upset or scared, the kids are could likely absorb that same kind of emotion.
Now, how would you handle the situation versus if the crime or something's happening closer to home versus out in Colorado? I mean, it wasn't nearby, but it was still in the news.
Right. They really can't tell a lot whether it's down the street or it's across the country, especially younger ones. So they kind of treat them both the same. Mm-hmm. If it happens really close to home, like in your neighborhood, a lot of the tips that I offer, you want to do them even more.
I see. Okay, Bill, so we're going to get into the tips right now. Right off the bat, you say limit their exposure to the news event.
Right. Too much is too much. It's good for us to be up on current events, to know what's going on, but you know what? Do it when they're not around. Listen to it on earbuds, whatever you can. They don't need all that kind of exposure. They'll just continue to absorb too much of it.
All right, and I guess you want to break it down into terms that they can understand?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Make sure that they know that, that we're going to be safe, and to put it in terms that they understand, that means you don't want to explain the entire thing to them. Sure. It's based on the development stage of the child as to how much they can really understand. All
right, and then you mentioned it's important to watch for unusual behaviors.
Mm-hmm. When children feel or experience things, sometimes it comes out in their behavior. Mm-hmm. So a child doesn't know how to walk up to their mom and say, you know, I'm feeling really anxious about this. It comes out in their play. If you suddenly see them starting to become more aggressive with playmates, or sad, or sullen, or by themselves, it's an indication something's going
wrong,
on.
Right? Something's not right. Then it says, as we touched upon this already, manage your own emotions.
Yeah, make sure that you, when we feel sad, mm-hmm. like when 9/11 happened, or the shooting, and especially if you had family in Colorado, it's a good idea. It's okay to let them know how you feel, but don't overdo it. Mm-hmm. If you really think that you're crushed by an event, get someone to watch your kids for a while, and get someone to take you out to be by yourself if necessary. Use babysitters or family members so that you can mourn. You got to be able to have that opportunity to mourn, mm-hmm. but sometimes if you do it in front of the kids, it can be, because they don't understand it,
Sure.
it'll be too much for them.
Got it. And then you mentioned it's important to have a home evacuation plan. How does this fit into the mix?
Well, once you create that actually helps them begin to feel like, we are safe, right? Because remember,
Sure.
as I said earlier, they're very focused on when is it going to happen here? When is the shooter going to arrive here? When is that tsunami going to hit our house? So when you have an evacuation plan, it kind of helps them calm down. It helps them say, Mom, Dad, you guys are in charge.
Sigh of relief, I suppose,
yeah, absolutely.
Right? And then lastly, probably one of the most important tips here, increase family time together.
The more they feel loved, they feel close to the family, the more it builds that foundation in the child for them to be able to deal with these things when they occur. Remember, just like a home, our home is built on a foundation, and then our beautiful house sits on top of it. Mm-hmm. Same with children. You got to build that foundation by helping them feel loved, valued, important in the home, and everything else can sit on top of that.
Got it. Bill, tell us about a couple other chapters in the book.
Well, the book is Love, Limits, and Lessons, and I wrote it in a different kind of way. It's not a theory book. It's not psychology. It's basically, how do I do this? How do I get the kids in bed?
Right to the point.
Right to the point. That's what parents need. They don't want to hear about the psychological theory about why children do what they do. Mm-hmm. They want to know step by step, 1 through 5, how do I get everyone at the dinner table? What do I do if my child doesn't clean a room? What happens if I catch them on a bad site on the internet? It's a step-by-step situational book, so parents can actually go to the directory in the beginning, find their situation,
find the problem, right?
and go right to it, right.
And you have a pretty impressive background.
I've got a couple of degrees in psychology, and actually it all started when I had my own kids. And because a lot of us were raised by parents who were trying the best they could and they didn't do a very good job, mm-hmm. I wanted to be a better parent. And I knew there's a better way to raise children. I wasn't sure what it was. I had to become a parent I had never seen because my parents didn't do it very well. I was committed to doing it the way that I think it should be done. And after getting my education in child psychology and understanding more about how that works, and then I began to implement discipline that really raises children.
And now we have the book. Very good. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, it's available Amazon, anywhere?
All over.
Okay. Very